Good morning, sixth graders. I hope you're doing well. Today's lesson is for April the 16th, and we are on page 287. I know that a lot of this is not with your lesson plans, but I told you to ignore the lesson plans and just go by what I talk about here in this lesson. We have two more lessons, today and tomorrow, and we'll finish this chapter, and then we'll move on to another chapter after this, and we'll be done with Japan. Okay, so today's shout out is going to go to Gabby. And let's see, I'll just say one today, Gabby. All right, and so Gabby, I hope you're doing well. I hope that your brace isn't hurting you and you're getting used to it, and I miss you. All right, so we are going to be on page 287, and we're going to talk about religion. We talked a little bit about Japanese religion, and we're just going to kind of review today, and then we'll move on to the feudal system tomorrow. All right, so if you haven't read page 287, go ahead and pause this and read it, and then I'll be right here waiting for you. Okay, so we want to focus on this lesson because we were talking about the Fujiwara who took control of the government until the Genji created a government run by generals. Okay, so Japan was in a feudal system, and we're going to talk like that, like I said, tomorrow with the samurai and everything. But today we're going to just re-emphasize their religion. Remember, they were sent to China, ambassadors were sent to China to scope it out and to learn the history of China so that they could adopt it and work on that in Japan. And so they adopted China's religion of Buddhism. Okay, so you have two religions though that the Japanese had, and what were they? What were the two religions? If you read this, you will know. Buddhism and then also Shintoism, okay? Shintoism, remember, where things were in the spirits of a rock or non-living things, okay? Buddhism, you worshipped a man whose name was Buddha, and his was more of an enlightenment thing where you had to be it was like a peaceful thing where you were one with everybody. Okay, so that was something. Now, in what ways did Japanese embrace the two main religions? Okay, this is what they did, and if you read this, we'll talk, but they began combining the divine beings of Buddhism and the Shinto gods. For help with their daily lives, they worshipped at Shinto shrines. To prepare for life to come, they worshipped in Buddhist temples. Okay, so that's something they did, and they were very, very loyal, and sometimes they would sacrifice a lot to worship Buddha, especially like the Buddhist monks. Sometimes they would go in and they would not talk for days just so that they could, worship their God. The difference between worshiping Buddha, because Buddha was a real person. When Buddha died, he stayed dead. Our God didn't. Jesus, he rose again after the third day. And so that's a big, big difference, other than the fact that Buddha, he might have done good things on earth, but he wasn't one to be worshipped. Okay, look at the shrine, the shrine right there, and it says, the main hall at the Heian Jinju Shrine, Heian Jinju Shrine stands as part of the recreated imperial palace of the Heian Kaiō. Imperial Kanmu is enshrined here for relocating the capital from Nara to Kyoto, along with Emperor Komai, who was the last emperor to rule the Kyoto. Enshrined means that they're buried there, okay? And it's like kind of like the pyramids or things. Why did the Japanese enshrine emperors? What do you think was the reason why they did this? Remember when we talked about that? They believed their emperors were gods, and so they wanted them to be buried at this temple so that they can go to this temple and then they can worship their past emperors, okay? Which family challenged Japan's central government during the Heian period? The Fujiwara family. Sorry, Fujiwara family. A lot of these names are hard to pronounce. Okay, and so how did the Fujiwara come to power? Do you remember I talked about this a couple lessons ago? They had their daughters marry sons of the imperial, remember the imperial court? So they had their daughters marry sons of the imperial family, and so the daughters didn't have a choice of who they were going to marry. Hopefully they liked the person, and then they would convince the emperor to give up the throne to an heir born to one of the daughters. Maybe it was by pressure, maybe it was just trying to convince, hey, this person can do better. The Fujiwara then ruled as regents. A regent is someone who kind of rules for that person. Say like in the Bible, like Josiah was a king when he was 6 years old. But yet as a 6-year-old, he doesn't really know what is good for the country. So hopefully those people will have somebody that's godly who loves the Lord and is going to guide him. Now fortunately Josiah had somebody that guided him, because the Bible says that Josiah did right in the sight of the Lord. And so whoever his regent was, whoever trained him to love the Lord and to choose wisely and to rule wisely. So a regent we talked about before, where I think it was China, I can't remember, way back, where we had the mother that would be behind the scenes, and she would rule in case of her child. So actually that was the other class, but a regent is someone who helps this person rule while the person grows up and he can make decisions of his own. So so these regents, these regents could have a lot of influence if they wanted to rule. Say the dad was ruling or the mom was ruling and she had these ideas for the country, she could say whatever she wanted and the kid would be like, okay, and then by the time the kid was 18, he could rule himself and do his own thing, but it still took a while. Who besides regents helped run the country? They were the aristocrats, and then those were the higher up people. And then why was it important for aristocrats to be assigned a rank? They were able to hold office in government, okay? And so when a space was available, they would work really, really hard to get that job. What role did women play in government? Well, they could hold rank, but they couldn't have government positions. And this was like every other country, even in America, okay? Not that America was around at this time, but they did hold power at court, and they influenced decisions on who appointed or who was appointed to a government office. Women have a way of being a great influence if they want to, and they can do it in a good way and they can do it in a bad way. What caused the Fujiwara to lose control of the government? There was corruption, and then there was a power struggle. And then a civil war resulted. A civil war is a fight between the same countries. So just like we had a civil war in America, the North fighting against the South, Japan did too. So it had a civil war, and it resulted in the shifting to military officials. The Gunji, established a government run by military generals. I was trying to think because Genji, that's how you say it. Okay. And then look at the image of the screen panels on page 287. It says these 17th century Japanese screen panels depict battles during the Genpei Wars. What forms of battle are shown? What? Okay, so if you look at the picture, a battle takes place where? It takes place at an unfinished bridge with both armies. What are they using? Not guns, right? They're using swords, bows, and arrows. And then at the other battle, over onto the left, there's another battle. Mounted soldiers and foot soldiers shoot arrows to fight attacks by archers in boats. Archers are people who do the bow and arrows, kind of like Arrow or what's his name, Hawkeye in the Marvel comics, okay? What role did the emperor play under the new government? Under the new government, he didn't have much power, and the military people did. You'll see when you study World War II, how even in the emperor in Japan during World War II wasn't as important as Chojo, who was the military commander of the Japanese army. He was more the hero. And what happened to the feudal age in Japan? Well, it ended. There's no more. So tomorrow, like I said, we're going to finish the chapter, and so you're going to be reading pages 290 and 291. If you want to go ahead and read that in advance, that's fine. You can do that, and we will see you tomorrow. I love you guys. I hope you're making good choices.